egg, 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 egg.
Can you feel life moving through your mind? Ooh, looks like it came back for more. Yeah. Can you feel time slipping down your spine?
Egg,
Ooh, you're trying to ignore. Yeah. But you can hardly swallow your fears and pain when you can't help but follow and put you right back where you came. Live and learn, hanging on the edge of tomorrow. Live and learn from the words of yesterday. Live and learn. If you beg or if you borrow,
egg,
live and learn. You may never find your way. Oh, yeah. Can you feel it life tangle you up inside? Yeah. Now you're face down on the floor. Oh.
egg,
But you can't save your sorrow. You paid in trade. When you can't help but follow, it puts you right back where you came. Live and learn, hanging on the edge of tomorrow. Live and learn.
beginning of this one-way dream.
The sun is falling in the sky beyond. Light is fading from our world. The sun is falling in the sky beyond, and light is fading from our world. Now's the
Hello.
time to
Hi, hi, hi. Hey everyone. It's the day when I finally fucking built the Sonic Death Eggs Lego set. It's been a long time coming. Ah! Ow! How could you? So mean. Hi. Look, kijk, ik ben het. Ik ben het echt. De echte. Ik heb handen en zo. Wauw. Hi allemaal. Ik hoop dat jullie een goede begin van het weekend hebben gehad en zo. En nu is het zondag. En gisteren heb ik niet gestreamd, want ik was eigenlijk ik had vrijdag en vandaag gisteren niet gestreamd omdat ik eigenlijk iets anders ging doen, but I couldn't. Stuff just like fell through, so I had to move both of those streams to today. So we're gonna build the Lego set today, and we're gonna play Sonic Frontiers today. Hopefully we'll beat it, but it remains to be seen, you know? For some reason I was not expecting real life win. Why not? It's a Lego stream, that's like the point, you know? It's this bitch, there's Sonk, there's Egg, Cubot is there, not Orbot for some reason, even though Cubot sucks and Orbot is a pretty fun character. Not great, but you know, he gets the job done. You know what I mean? Anyway, hello everyone. It's a very early stream today because I have to do 2 of them. So we do 2. So I have to do one early, probably because it's 7 a.m. Well, for me, it's 2 p.m. So for me, it's a much more reasonable time. Do I have anything else that I gotta talk about right now? Probably not. No. Let's just get to it. I want to get building. So, this is my phone, goes over there. Look. Oops. Thank you. But look. Yay! Of course it's not fucking focusing, because why would it? Anyway, I got a new phone case, and it's got stickers on it and stuff. Yay! And there's also a few on the back. Ain't that nice? Anyway, just put that over here for now. I managed to finish the Frontiers DLC. Nice! Do you think I'll be able to finish it today, or do you think I'm gonna need another stream? Yeah, oh yeah. I also have a Goodbye Volcano High shirt. Like, hold on. Look, ain't it nice? I think it looks nice. It's the Worm Drama shirt, and it's very good. I also got a pin. But that one is on my back, so I can't show that one. But yeah, I'm super happy with it. It's such a nice shirt. It looks really, really good. It's not quite black. It's like a very dark blue, which is a little bit more interesting, I feel. Anyway. Oh, and also, 2 guitar picks. It came with 2 of the same guitar pick, which is nice, you know? Another stream probably I'd give it a 10 out of 10 in terms of difficulty and like an 8 or 9 in terms of bullshit. Exciting! Good! Well, I'm playing on easy mode, so hopefully that'll help. But yes, we're going to be building this set today. I'm gonna align this properly. How do fuck? Hold on. It's like, how do I angle this? There we go. We're building this set today. Whatever. The Death Egg robot set, which I'm very excited about. It's gonna have some play features. I'm mostly just excited to build the robot. I think the Death Egg robot looks really good. I heard from a lot of people that they thought that the Death Egg robot looked bad. I don't agree. I think it looks good. And I'm very excited to build it. Oh, but I should definitely do eggs first, actually, shouldn't I? That's pretty important. Ba-ba-bum. I should change the music also. Because we're gonna have a nice chill stream, so we should have the nice chill music.
Welcome to the Eggman Empire.
The Eggman. Thank you very much, best friend Mothman, for the donation. Thank you. Oh, we've almost reached the donation goal, so I can stream Sonic Superstars when it releases. This one. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Okay, this one, and then I go here. So remember that if you have put one little point, you can already spend it on an egg that you can put on the stream. I like the fishnet armband. Yeah, I got like fishnet gloves. They're nice, right? I got so many things. Yay! I also got a bunch of chokers, but obviously I won't be showing that because then you'd see my face, and that's too much. Because I'm not wearing makeup. Boop. And the first egg of the day goes to, or rather comes from, a Gynalope. Then we've got Kira Cat. Green Clunk. Esteemed Jester. Diafiend. Kaz. Etram Toa. And best friend Mothman. Thank you for these early day starting eggs for today. Thank you. Oh, big appreciation, etc. Alright, let me put on a different playlist. It is kind of fun that we're building an egg thing, and we have eggs, you know? Okay, so this is gonna be where I put... If you've never seen one of these build streams before, I use my little dice tray to... I put the bricks in there so they stay contained, you know, they don't go all over the place. Now, and in the past, I would put the instruction manual here and then build here, further away from the camera.
Egg.
That's not smart. I don't know why I did it like that. I think because I wanted you guys to be able to look at the instructions with me when that's really not as important as the build itself. So, you know. Roll d20 to decide how the stream is gonna go. Okay. That's a 10. That's not bad. I guess it's a okay stream. Do I add a proficiency or something to that? Well, no, they'll make the whole death egg. I was thinking about that. That they have the Star Wars thing. The fuck is that thing called? Orb. It's the Death Star, that's it. They have the Death Star, and the Death Egg is just like the Death Star, but it's got his face on it. So I feel like it would not be too difficult to design a Death Egg. But for now, we'll have to make do with this. So let's open it. Also, hi, Mai. Ooh.
Hi!
Not the cleanest cut. Hello. Okay, let's see. Okay, we've got one here. The instruction book. Okay, let's see. I assume we're only starting with one, which seems to have Sonic and his little launcher in it. Because it comes with like, you can put him in a little ball and then he launches. You know? You get a plus 10 to the roll because you are practiced in streaming. That's very practiced, nice. So that's a 20, hey, that's very good. That pretty much definitely passes as a good stream. Wait, does it come? Okay, they're talking about the little multi-tool. I feel like they don't usually talk about that. Does it come with one? Because I don't have one yet and I'd like one. It does! It does come with one! Oh, that is so exciting! Also, I was bumping the mic arm, I'm sorry. Yay, I finally get to have one of those. I keep forgetting to like order one or anything. Awesome. We'll put the box down here for now. So that the instructions can go over here. Ish. Let me just push stuff a little bit in the way. I'll put that there for now. There we go. And there. All right. You're wearing that Goodbye Fucking High shirt. Yes, I am. It's very nice. I was showing it off earlier. It's very, very good. All right, so put all the pieces in here. Bye. Okay, and then we're gonna make Sonic first. And we're done. We've done it. Sonic has been brought into reality. Ta-da! It's song. Do you have a favorite Volcano High song? I'd have to. I feel like I do, but I haven't memorized all the names just yet. So ask me again later when ask me in the Discord. Ask me in the Discord, and then I'll be able to tell you, because we're not gonna like listen to the whole soundtrack right now. I want to be able to get far with this build. Ideally, finish it in like 3.5 hours. We'll see if that works. Nice limited sticker. I still very good. Yes, I do. I've got a spare of it in a different color and different outfits right here. They were made by my friend who you can find on Etsy with the name Star Heavenly. Sawyer. He's so talented, he's so fucking skilled, and you should definitely buy his merchandise. He also has a bunch of Sonic stuff, so, you know, look into that. But yes, we've got Sonic here. He looks nice. The Sonic Lego figure to me, all the Sonic characters in Lego figures to me, they're just so funny, because, like, I feel like if you look at a Lego, like, for example, here's Chell on roller skates from Portal. And the camera doesn't focus naturally. Anyway, you know what a Lego figure looks like. Thank you, Clone, for the link. Very good. She's on roller skates because at some point I ordered roller skates, and then I put her on roller skates. But if you look at like the face of a regular Lego figure, obviously they're static, but they're simple enough that it doesn't really. Like that's fine. Something about the Sonic figures with their big molded heads and their giant eyes and stuff. Come on. Focus. Please. Please. Anyway, it looks a bit silly to me. They end up looking like mascot suits in a theme park, you know?
You're too slow.
Glafmat, thank you very much for subscribing. Thank you. Sonic minifigs are wearing fursuits, yeah. That's what it feels like sometimes. And Glove Comet, thank you very much for your egg. Yes, good morning. Anyway, so that's Sonk. Put him right over here. His leg joints are surprisingly loose. Gotta say though, I like that they... Obviously, you guys won't be able to see it very well. Oh, there we go. Look at this. Look at the side of his shoes. They actually like painted on his the shoe straps and stuff. That's very nice. That's a good attention to detail, you know. I think that the original. Am I gonna come back? So, me? Queen of Fennec? Where are you, please? Come back! What happened? I think she's dead. I think you guys killed her for real. Hold on a second. Okay. Well, that was weird. I think something fucked up because earlier when I dropped my phone on my keyboard, I like pressed the Why is the music slow? What did I do? What happened? What is going on? Hold on a second. Okay, there we go. Okay, alright. Let's just keep going. Yeah, my default phone room hasn't ruined my entire setup, I think. But we'll put Sonic right over here. He can't stand up very well because of his enormous quills. Okay, now we're gonna build his funny orb. Which is this. And this, and then we put him in here. Is this okay to do? Is this ethical? Is it ethical to keep your hedgehog in such a small enclosure? And shake him around? I guess they don't tell you to do that part, that's just me. I think this is very funny, the way that they're just like, the sparkles around it, like, yes, you did it! You put him in an orb! Yay! Great job! Next up, he's just in there. He's just in there now. You've done what Eggman has been trying forever. Wow, and all it took was to be way bigger and for him to be inanimate. That's all it takes. It's not so hard. I did still have to follow instructions though. Maybe Eggman wrote these instructions. Yeah, all it took was 4 Lego pieces. Huh? Okay, they're like, okay, take this big red thing and 2 of these small black things. And then the next step is just, and then 2 more of those small black things. Couldn't you just do those at the same time? No? Okay. Why doesn't Eggman just be bigger? Shaking my head. It's not that hard. I did it, I'm not even trying. I think Eggman would be the one to write the death egg instructions, if any. True. I think those are different pins? They are! Thank you for catching that non-existent pumpkin, damn. Don't I feel like a fool? They look so similar, but this explains so much. They're these ones with the little Orbeez. Sonic has fallen into the river in Lego City. Build the Death Egg robot. Okay, put this here. Oh, I'm doing it wrong. It's like, why isn't it working? Okay. And then this funny little rubbery piece goes. I love this music. Dun, dun. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah. Okay. Why's it gotta be rubber, I wonder? My mother just texted me saying I should work at the local hardware store because she went in and feels like everyone in there is autistic. And I don't know what she means by that. I don't respect your mom. Not based on this one anecdote, by the way. There is more. Did you guys don't know that? Ba-dum-bum-bum. That feels like an incredibly rude thing to say to someone. Y'all are fucking like, unless you are autistic and you're among other, and you're talking about someone who can't like, you're talking about like a character in a show. I don't think you should be saying that you think people seem autistic. Just my own personal little opinion. Where was I? Okay, 2 of these. They go here. Whoops. And I'm gonna take 4 of these. Okay. Put this here. And this here, and then take another one. Down, down, down. I wonder how this. Oh, right, the tool. Yay, I got the tool. I wonder how this slam, because it's gonna be a slam. You know, you're gonna slam down on this, I think, and that's somehow gonna launch Sonic, but so far there aren't any moving parts in here yet. And there's no like elastics or anything. I mean, there's these little thingies, I guess, but I don't know, I'm curious to see how this is going to be a mechanism, you know? Okay, we're now gonna build the slam part, it seems, so let's find out. Dun, 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 dun. I will take a sippy in just a moment. The fuck, dude? Am I doing something wrong? Hold on. I'll do that also in a moment. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me first do this. There we go. Okay. Now I'll take a sippy and a stretching the posture check.
Hey, come on!
Okay. Thank you. Need 2 of these and 1 of these. Oops. Did you guys hear that they're gonna make Animal Crossing Lego as well? I wonder what that's gonna look like. It could be cute. I think it'll be cute. I wonder what they'll do with the buildings. Because in Animal Crossing, you know, the buildings are small, but then you go inside and they're bigger. Ooh. So I wonder what they're gonna do with that. Like whether the houses are just gonna have very small interiors, if at all. I'm sure they'll have interiors, or if they're gonna make the houses bigger to have larger interiors, you know? I'm just very horrified about how people will treat the villager Legos. You think we're gonna have them like reselling them and stuff again? Like they had with that one cat, you know? Hey Zoe, how are you? I'm doing pretty well, thank you. I overslept a bit, but that does mean that I slept more. So that's nice. And I'm excited to do so much Sonic stuff today. Finally a new Isabelle to add to my collection. The collection is 3. I guess my collection is 2. I've got the amiibo and the amiibo card. Is there an amiibo card? I don't think there is. There might be. I don't remember. Well, I have the amiibo in any case, because I was one of the complete imbeciles that bought Amiibo Party. It was not worth it. Village Black Market version 2. We'll see, I guess. Well, that's also something I'm wondering about, is like how many villagers will they make, right? Because obviously, there's no way it's gonna be as many. They're not gonna have everyone from the game. You know? I have 2 amiibos and a Nendoroid. Oh, I forgot that was a Nendoroid. Right. There's no way they're gonna make all of them from the games. They're gonna have a few molds for a few heads, and then my question is, will they have multiple prints for each head? You know, for each animal head. Will they have multiple deer, for example, you know? That's my question. Because they could, I guess. But will they? That depends on how many sets they'll have, I suppose. Where was I? There's an Nendoroid on my desk. It's super cute. Nice. I have a Bocce Nendoroid here. That's cute. Is that the only Nendoroid I have on my desk? Oh no, wait, I also have I have Yang from Ruby. That's a good purchase. That's worth it. I don't even like Animal Crossing that much. I just really like Isabelle. I'm the opposite. I really like Animal Crossing, but I don't like Isabelle that much, which is partially what she represents. A shift in the series away from just a nice little life simulator and more towards a management game. But she herself is nice. She's a cute character. Okay, where does this go? Like this, okay. I'm just concerned about how many bells those Lego houses are gonna cost. Yeah, I wonder how expensive these sets are gonna be. I'm probably buying at least one though. I probably will. Just to see. Unless they're really bad. But I'm sure they won't be. Because even... Fuck, dude. Hold on. Even when LEGO, the company, is doing some money grubbing shit, their designers are always still like on top, you know? They're all, or they're still, what's the word I'm looking for? Doing a really good job. Okay, so did I do this right? I think so. Still don't really see how this is gonna be a launcher. Huh? Oh, I did do it wrong. Not a good part to get wrong. There we go. Okay, move these to the outside. Oh, just the one? Just the one, okay. So now I put it back on. Isabel represents capitalist bureaucracy invading a small-town environment, privatizing of the public works, and the alienation of the people. But also, she's cute. You're buying into her horrible schemes, Jody. Don't do it. No. You're better than this. Bum bum ba bum ba da 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 dum dum. Okay. I still don't see how this is gonna be a slam. I don't see it. Next Animal Crossing game, the villagers are gonna ask you what personality they should have. Honestly, I wouldn't be too surprised if they end up doing something like that, because that is very much the kind of direction it feels like it's heading in. And personally, I'm against it. Yeah, we are actually talking about Assassin's Color, yeah. Okay. Oh wait, we're building something upside down, I think. Does that make more sense? Maybe like... I don't know. I'm very excited to see. Hello, Escargotti. Welcome. Okay, put this here. And this here. And that's where we put the bumper. Can you guys hear like the clicks and stuff when I do stuff like that? I hope so. I just woke up and I'm very tired. For some reason, I thought that Lego Sonic meant you were playing the Lego Dimensions thing with Sonic. This is so much better. Sadly, I am not. It's pretty funny though. But no, I am simply building Lego, which is nice and calming. Okay, so then I put this in here. Oh wait, oh! Wait, maybe it's gonna be like this. Like I put this in and put him in here, and then I push, and that's gonna launch him. It hit my mouse. It hit the side of my mouse where my zooming button is that I always forget I have. Hello, Simbera. Hello. Animal Crossing went from a life sim where you had to work around the people you lived with to wish fulfillment at the expense of what made the series more unique than my sims, and it's why I'm not an Animal Crossing fan. Yeah, that's it. Like, I loved Animal Crossing up until, like, City Folk. I loved it. I lived it, almost. Like, I devoted so much of my time to those games, but then they just stopped being about living, and now I'm sad, you know? I'm just sad that Animal Crossing has become this. Oh well. I hope they fix it at some point, but probably not, because the games are more popular like this. And you know, yeah, it's very much gentrification kind of feeling, honestly, because villagers used to have like actual feelings and stuff, you know? They used to react more realistically to your actions, and they could dislike you and stuff, and it felt so much more interesting and immersive and stuff. And I know that they're not gonna go back because people love that it's just a management game now. But I'm sad. It makes me sad, you know? I should really just like stream the original Animal Crossing games. Just to go back to that. That feeling. I miss it. I'm missing it every day. I hope the next game the villagers tell you to fuck off and die. That'd be a nice return to form. Open next game, a villager has a villager that would beat you to death if the mechanics allowed it. I open the next game. Okay, you know what? If they do want to keep the life management thing, or the town management thing where you like edit your town and stuff to your liking, I hope they give the villagers back more autonomy and feeling and emotion and likes and dislikes, and they can protest and riot against your actions. I think that would be good. Okay, so that. Oh, whoops. Here we go. I just want them to have a chance for them to say no when to you moving their fucking house. I know, it's just so ridiculous. Like they don't feel like people anymore. They just feel like a resource for you to exploit for like your perfect little town. Aw, you know? That's not what I want. It feels, I don't know, it just feels, they feel empty, you know? They just feel really empty now. Like, if I want to control people's lives, I'll just play The Sims. Okay, that's it. we did it. Yes. Woo. I never knew there was Sonic Lego. There is. It's been out since August, I believe it was. When was August? Yeah, that sounds about right. I think it's been out since August 1st. And there are 5 sets. I believe there are 5 sets, of which I own 2 currently. And there's also like the Sonic display set that's just like a side view of a level and stuff, which is also very nice. It has a brick built Eggman, which is terrifying, but kind of awesome. But these sets are like specific. They've got actual real Sonic figures and stuff. Look, I have Amy over here as well. They're nice. I like them. So we've got this now. So I guess if I do this, yeah, that works. the boy gets launched. All right. I didn't think it would work. I didn't know it would work, but it works. It works. Good. Cool. That's fun. I'm gonna take Sonic out of this for a bit, actually. If I can. How am I too tall? I'm so short. Wait, I'm not short, I'm not short, I'm not short, I'm tall. I'm not tall, I'm so tall. I didn't say that. Shit. Fuck. I'm starting to believe. People have told me I'm too short too often. I'm not short. Fuck. I can't wait for Blaze and Roots to get a minifig. That'd be very cool. I want Blaze to get a minifig and I'll get it and I'll put him next to Amy. Okay, Sonic there. Turn him this way so you guys can see him a little bit better. Okay, next up, we are building Eggman. Yeah. There we go. That goes with a little mini bag. Okay. We'll clean that up later. Okay, let's see. We've got a ring. Is it this one? Is this one too big? Hold on. No, it's this one. Done. We've got a ring. I presume there are more classic Sonic vibes than modern, by the way, so we won't be seeing any of the edgier things in Sonic. Lol. Maybe not. I mean, yeah, I guess it is mostly like Green Hill Zone stuff and the Death Egg robot and stuff, but the designs for the characters are the modern designs, so who knows? And there is a design for Lego Shadow in the Dimensions game, so who knows? There's also Knuckles, which we haven't gotten yet in the actual official sets, and I want him because he's Knuckles and he needs to have his hat because that'd be funny. I would like it if he has his hat. And now here is Eggman. Eggman. But only the egg part. It's got its own custom like mold both for the arms and the torso, which is pretty cool. His arms are so little. Especially compared to his legs, which are really long. This is my first time. I've seen these a lot. These really tall leg pieces. Like they use them for the Blue People Avatar sets. But this is my first time having them. They're so funny. Hold on a second. Sonic's got some nice new leather pants. They look really good. Think of all the high kicks. That's very funny to me. But no, they are, in fact, Eggman. He looks so funny! Like, the fact that his body just kind of tapers off and then the legs start, like they don't start higher up. It looks so weird to me. It's so weird. How he's got such long legs and yet still his legs are like less than half of his body height. It looks so weird to me. It's so funny. That's probably when I made him sit down on the box. Oh yeah, definitely. Like in both sets that Lego Eggman is in, he's sitting down, which is definitely for the best. It's just, he looks so funny to me. I love him. really good. Also, I have to put this Flicky next to him. I've already got a couple of these from the Amy's Rescue Center set. They're cute. He's also barely taller than Sonic. Like, okay, well, it's not really barely, but still, I would have, like, you would have expected him to be, like, more taller, wouldn't you? Tallerer? Whatever. Also, Veer doesn't fade. And also someone else. Oh, my, I missed your egg. I'm so sorry. Thank you both for your eggs. There we go. Alright, now we're gonna build Cubot. Once again, I am not that big of a fan of Cubot. I think Orbot is the better character. Oops. Look at that. This set. I have such fond memories of this set. You can do so many fun things with it in custom builds, like put like 3 claws here to make like a... Actually, do I have? No, not really, but... Like if you have a 3rd one of these little arm sets, you can put it in the middle and then like make like a 3-pronged claw, you know? That's cool. And they were in the Mars sets, and the Star Wars droids, of course, use them. I really like this little torso piece. It's nice. Simbera. Oh, and also Melzanoff. Thank you both for your eggs. Thank you. Anyway, it's here, and then put the arms on. There we go. And then we have to construct Orbot's little head, which is cute. Wait, do I have a... You use a skate for that? That is so cute. Look, you use a skate for his eyes. Hold on, can it focus? You were focusing so easily on the little Flicky earlier. Come on. No? I guess not? Okay, well... Anyway, that's a very cute way of doing that with the little eyes. Orbot, more like Bullerbot, got him! He's not funny, just get rid of him. Kill his ass. This is a spike. That's dangerous. Anyway. Put this on here. And that is Orbot's dumb, stupid head. Like, I like Orbot and Cubot's design and all that, but... Wait, was I saying Orbot? No, Orbot is a good one. Cubot. But Cubot is boring and annoying and is always just a really unsuccessful comedic relief. Whereas Orbot... Did I say it right this time? Cubot sucks, Orbot does not. Orbot actually like has... Like his sarcastic interjections and stuff are actually kind of funny. And he doesn't overstay his welcome the way that Cubot does, who just always buds in to do an unfunny joke, you know? Cubot more like, boo bot, got him, boo! We hate you, pussy. Anyway, this is him. I do like how they did the build in LEGO. It's cute. I think they should have done Orbot instead because he's the better character. But of course I did Cubot because he's a cube, you know? And thanks for coming, Melangatas. Bye-bye. Put him out over here. And now we're gonna build a platform. A platform. think that might be like the ramp that Sonic is gonna launch off of. I'm not sure. We're starting with this piece, which is interesting. This is all one bit. Oh, thank God. Oh, I don't have to put a sticker on this. I'm so happy. And I'm also so happy that they got like the danger pattern thing, because that is so iconic and important. Like, I have it too. See? Wait, hold on. See? It's on my gauntlets too, because they're made by Eggman, so they've got the danger strips on them, which is very important for Eggman machinery. I'm late to Lego Sonic X2. I get staying up until 2 a.m. Hey, if it's any consolation, I stayed up until 4 a.m. by accident, so, you know. And I also was almost late, actually. Bam, bam, bam. Eggman is so OSHA color. I love it. Well, yeah. I mean, he wants to kill Sonic, not like get OSHA on his ass, you know? Woo. Sippy. I will do a sippy, thank you. Several sippies because I felt like it. Wait, why isn't... There we go. Put these red things here. Both at once. I'm so good at this. I think Eggman has to pay bills for the Death Egg. Yeah, but he doesn't, and nobody has questioned it, but OSHA would. OSHA is very powerful, they would. So that's why he at least wants to make sure that OSHA doesn't come around, so that they notice he also hasn't been paying bills and taxes and stuff. Head for Derek! Okay. Any particular hat you'd like? Can you give him a Lego cap? I have a Lego pirate hat. That is the only Lego hat I have, though. So if you'd like that one, I can give him that one. Next up, we're making a spike trap. That'll do. All right. Pirate hat it is. A regular Lego cap would be cute, though. Perhaps that could be looked into. Derek has a pirate hat. And the world is at peace. Any other Lego hat, I could put like a PNG in Studio Quicksmart. Yeah, if you guys have any other hats that you want me to put into the hat folder, you can put them in the stream suggestions channel on the Discord. Okay, so we've got some spikies. These are some long spikies. They're not actually sharp, of course, but I feel like you could make them sharp. Dun, 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 dun. I like that you just build a spike trap. It's not attached to anything. It's just a spike trap. There it is. And Sonic gets to jump over it in his funny little ball, in his hamster ball, in his hedgehog ball. It's just spikes. That's it. This is one of the things you build in this. It's just spikes. It's just some spikes. It almost feels lazy. Can I just say? Like, okay, I don't think it is, because the idea behind these playsets is that like Sonic gets into this little ball and then you launch him with this little thing and you construct obstacle courses for him, right? It's sort of like the Mario Lego thing, but it doesn't have like the electrical element. It's not just you're not just like moving a figure around, you're launching him like a Hot Wheels, you know? So like you're just putting you can like construct your own little colors for him, you know?
Egg.
So but it looks a bit silly. The H rating is 8+. And Vex Fidel.
Egg.
Vex Fidel first. Thank you very much for your egg. And Wahoo Phantom Mule, thank you as well. Okay, now we're gonna build a machine that I think is like drawing power from a Flicky or some other animal or whatever. Oh, another one. Captivity, thank you. All right. Starting with this. And putting this on it. And then this. No. Yes? No, this. This? Yes. Old enough to identify the dangers of spikes, hopefully. If you've played Sonic, then you know. I don't know, I feel like we don't teach kids the dangers of spikes as much as we used to. And quicksand. I feel like quicksand just isn't as prominent in cartoons anymore as it used to be. But I also don't watch every cartoon that's put on TV anymore, so who am I to... Yo! It's a Mata chess ball! Fuck yeah, Bionicle Mansion, dude! Hell yeah! Oh, no! Okay, we're good. I'm really scared there for a second. I was so scared of running into quicksand in the UK as a kid. No, me too! Not in the UK, obviously, but I guess probably also while I was in the UK, I went on vacation there. But yeah, that was absolutely like a thing of like, I am going to die in quicksand someday. It's gonna happen. And then one day it did. Steve Universe has never experienced the epic highs and lows, mostly lows, of quicksand. Hasn't it? I mean, it's such a long series, I feel like it could. How certain are we that there was never any quicksand in that show? Oh, wait, okay. Different one? Yeah, I died. Sorry, I'm dead. You guys are all watching, this is like a creepypasta, you know? It's like you're gonna go around and it's like, oh my god, have you seen the new Gun the Queen stream? It's so good. And they're gonna be like, but Gun the Queen has been dead for 15 years, ooh, you know? But also, yes, it was pretty good. Okay, let's see. I like that we're building a little machine. This is cute. I feel like these kinds of intricate little nonsense machines used to be more common in LEGO builds, but now I don't really see them as often. In my experience, at least. Getting caught in quicksand IRL and jumping out like the Zen in Sandopolis zone. That's actually so funny, you know? What they always teach you in cartoons is like, if you're in quicksand, the more you struggle, the further you'll sink. Yet in video games, the way to get out of quicksand is always to just jump a lot, you know? Even though that's like the complete opposite of what cartoons tell you. So who's telling the truth here, you know? Ooh. Oh, we love to see it. We love to see a bit of miscellaneous meters and panels and stuff. And it even focused. Even the camera loves it. Hell yeah, dude. Very good. See, that's what I'm talking about. These kinds of things, I don't see them as much anymore. But I think we should, because they're fun. There we go. And a Chaos Emerald. Is that my fourth one? I think this might be my 4th one. I think there's 3 in the other set I have. This is that damn 4th Chaos Emerald. The stream makes me want to get back to 100%ing Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga on Steam. Is that... Hold on, The Complete Saga, is that... No, that's the Skywalker Saga. Yeah, okay, then you absolutely should. Go on, play it, it's fun, it's good. So we've got the Chaos Emerald in here. Nope, no focusing, alright. Put that on here. This is my favorite part of the build so far. It's making this cute little machine. Let's see. A little valve. But this isn't one of them. Isn't it weird how like Valve did a little bit of Lego stuff for Lego Dimensions, like just get Chell, and that's like it? Like, I feel like they could have done more. I mean, I guess most of their properties are not really that suited for a kids thing, but I mean, they did so much other stuff. They did Lego Jurassic Park, which has like people being torn apart, all gory like by dinosaurs, you know? So I feel like you could do Half-Life. You could do some more Portal, maybe. Wasted opportunity. A Portal set where it looks like the diagrams and you can set up different rooms. I think that'd be cute. And, oh wait, no. This first. And the Mudda Ball. Hell yeah! It's like a Tesla thing. I love it. This is so fucking cute. This is so cute. I know I keep saying that, but I just like it a lot. Okay, then we do this. I did read something once where a Valve employee basically explained that most of their designs were too oddly shaped and bulbous for Lego, and Chell was the only one who came out properly, so they just ran with the Portal stuff. Huh. Okay. I guess that's a better explanation than them just not wanting to or anything. But I feel like they could now use the Eggman mold and just like paint it differently, and then you'd have the Heavy with, you know, cosmetics. That's why he has a mustache. This is another one of those pieces where I have had a few of them. It's so odd. It's such an oddly shaped piece that I feel like it would be very difficult to find many uses for it, right? Don't you think? Maybe you could use it for wheels. Oh well. Yeah, Lego Dimensions had all kinds of really weird franchises and stuff in there. Okay, get this and put this on there. Oh, I fucked it up. Okay. Huh? Oh, I was like, wait, but there's no... They want me to put it here, right? But there's no studs here. You see? There's no studs. But that's on purpose because the idea is that Sonic is going to be able to knock it off, I think. I assume. Because we're going to put animals in there, you know? Can be used as a tiny cocktail straw holder. So fashionable. Hi Sarah, how are you? How are you doing? Good to see you. Could you put an egg in that? Eh. Yes. I could, and I have done so. I've put the Great Spirit Matanui's egg in there. Oops. Egg. Egg buddy. Thank you very much for your egg, buddy. Oops. That's the end of the first stack. Thank you very much. And escargot. Oops, that's the wrong one. And escargot. Thank you very much for starting the second stack. Thank you. Okay, I'm very tired, but I went to a new city yesterday and explored lots. And I have my residency permit now. Yay! I'm hard to deport now. Fuck yeah! Awesome! I'm so happy for you. And I hope you had a nice time in the city. Okay, so that is this. I assume they're gonna tell us on the next page that you can put little dudes in it. Nope. Instead, it's time to build the torso for the Death Egg Robo. So I'm just gonna put all those bits in the corner and get out bag number 3. I keep grabbing the right bag right away, so nice. I wonder if they really put them in that carefully. I looked up that gray wheel piece with the holes in it and originated in the mid-80s as a wheel hub for medium-sized Technic vehicles. Oh, so it literally is a wheel, alright. I would like to see a Lego build designed to completely shatter when a specific piece is removed. I love it. That'd be fun. I did, but one of the landmarks was covered in scaffolding. It's being maintained. It's being maintained. It seems since it's so old. Yeah, that happens sometimes with anything, so that's fair. But that just gives you an excuse to come back another time, you know. Ooh, oh, we're getting so many little bits here. All right. Okay, first we have to extract the animals that are in here somewhere, supposedly. So the legend goes. A turtle and a rabbit, supposedly. Do you guys see them? Is it okay, Emerald? Points at the screen. No! No, I don't. Okay, well, it seems we don't have to do anything with them right now anyway, so maybe they'll pop up once we remove some more of these pieces from the batch. Hopefully. How's that go so far? Fun! We built a cute little machine. Oh, it broke. Anyway, build a cute little machine. It's cute. Look at how cute this little machine is. I like it. We also built spikes. Just spikes. We just built spikes. Which I still think is very funny that you just built spikes. Alright, so Start with this, and then let's see, 1, 2 of these. Eeh. Oh wait, on the bottom. Okay. Flip around.
Car battery!
I actually got so spooked. That was good.
Egg.
Egg. Give me just a moment for the egg and the stretching posture check. There we go. I think it's fun when LEGO builds use a completely different color for the inside of a build, what you don't usually see. That's interesting to me. Okay. Mike loves rabbit. Thank you very much for your egg. And there's a good reason for the weird colors inside LEGO builds is to help the builder orient themselves. That's really good. That is so smart. I like that. I was also thinking that it kind of teaches kids that it's not that important what the colors inside a build are if you don't see them anyway, you know? I was so scared and so spooked is the thing about it. For realsies, forever. Okay, we're gonna make another one of these, except not. One. And 2. So this will be where the arms connect, I assume. Okay, I dropped the piece. Okay, need 2 of those. One on the front as well. And then we're gonna get these and put them like so. Okay. Well. Get one of these. And long side piece. Yep. Oh, I gotta do this twice even. The things they come up with for these builds. And then some little green bits. There we go. And put those at the put those at the top. There we go. I love this. I love building Lego. I love it. I love just having this and being like, this is gonna be a big robot at some point. Trust me, it's definitely gonna happen. I also don't know how, but it's gonna, you know? We all get to be fun and surprised together. Wait, what is this? Oh, maybe this is... maybe this thing here, which looks like a little garage or something, is gonna be where Eggman's gonna sit. It's like a Gundam, but blocky. Yeah! I saw a really cool, cute Robot Girl set the other day, but it's sold out and I'm sad forever.
Wow,
Oh, you-
I'm good.
Would have been fun to have that. But that's okay. I enjoy building Lego more anyway. It was the pink one you sent, yes. I actually got it sent twice, which is fun. And thank you, Egg Buddy, for the sippy. Bum bum bum. Bum ba-dum bum. These? Yes, these. It's only sold out if you're scared of breaking and entering. I mean, I'd also have to figure out someone who has it. That's the hard part. That's the real problem, not that other thing you said. No, no, no. That's fine. Nobody's gonna mind. But your officer, I wanted to cute robot girl. But your officer, I want to be a cute robot girl. And then I shoot them. Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-bum-ba-bum. Okay, get one of these and then. Oh, that was stuck in my hair for a second, I think. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum. Oh, I'm totally doing these out of order. But your honor, cute robot girl, death. That's so mean. I killed a judge. Your honor, my life as a teenage robot. I love the show. Death. Dun, dun, dun. So now we have this little compartment. What if it's gonna... probably not. No, that's probably where Eggman's gonna sit. I was thinking, what if it like slides out the back and it'll be fun, but... probably not. I know something's gonna fall out of the back. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure something is gonna come out of the back of the robot at some point. So that ought to be fun. Okay, this looks complicated. Let me focus on this part. One, 2, 3. It's not that complicated, I just am dumb. Man, queer Twitch. It's just better. I know. Yes. I'm not usually one to be like, this thing is better than this other thing. But no, we're better. We are just better. We're funnier, we're nicer. We're less annoying most of the time, you know? And we're queer, which, you know. Okay, put that there. Oh, wait, I was doing it wrong. I was just thinking, like... I mean, there are, like, okay. Look inside here, right? Like, what is the point of using all these grippers and bars and stuff that you can attach things to? What is the point of all that? What are we gonna use that for, I wonder? The queerer the better! So true. Your accessories are powerful. Thank you! They're good, right? I'm also wearing 2 belts because I'm a freak. And a bunch of chokers and a necklace with spikes. Because I like it. I was talking to my friend Claire the other day. And And she didn't know it was goth yet because she hadn't seen a picture of me. So she was like, oh my god, you're goth. You're like goth. And it's like, yeah, I know. Cause you wouldn't think it, you know? Cause like my VTuber avatar and like my layout of my stream and stuff is not goth. But I'm goth. Okay, so I put this. This thing is symmetrical, so it doesn't matter how I put. So I put. We have put. Good goth, she's gay. I am. You ever watch a cishet white streamer and they just like casually throw out a slur? And then you stop watching them. Also, no. I don't really watch cishet people most of the time. Definitely not streamers. While wearing jeans, jaws. I guess I have one pair of pants. It's cool. It's got like a checker. It's got a gray and black checker pattern on the one end, on one side, and just completely black on the other. Pant leg is very cool. But I don't. Are they jeans? I'm not sure. Also, these two pieces here, they're very unstable. So I hope we'll end up doing something to fix that. I discovered trans women Sea of Thieves YouTubers recently, and oops, I binged all their content. Oh, transgender women pirates, that's good. Ow. I do like that. Actually, I don't know about AOL. I think she's bi, not sure. I think so? I'm not sure. Obviously, but like, I watch cishet people like in my circle of friends and stuff, because I know that they're good, you know? But I wouldn't watch like a random cishet streamer. Can't trust them. Alright, now we're gonna make the head! Yeah, I'm pretty sure ALL's bi. Okay, turn this around. Huh? Oh, that's confusing. Okay. Only cishet streamer I trust is Jerma. True! And Vinny. Yes, Jerma and Vinny are the only ones I trust. Watching says that's because I have to keep my eye on it. Know thine enemy, you know? Okay, get two of these little thingies. Here we go. Jerma and Vinny, the funny brothers. They were separated at birth, but they're brothers. What's spooky and rhymes with art gallery? Fart gallery.
Car battery!
Oh, ow! That's stupid. Okay, art gallery, car battery, gallery battery, calorie battery. It rhymes. I'll give it to you. Oop. It's not a super. Yeah, it's a bit of a slant rhyme, but I give it a pass. Let's see. 1, 2, 3 pieces that I need. I like to watch random video essays on YouTube, and wow, is there a difference in quality when one is by some random gamer dude? Yeah, sometimes I'll like give one of them a try, and then 2 minutes and I'm like, never mind. Your content bad, actually. You are not Jacob Geller, so you do not count. Let's see. Good video essayists are Jacob Geller, Eurothug, Jenny Nicholson. Those even essays? I'm not sure. It's debatable. Kevin Perjurer, you know, Defunctland. That's probably it. Those random gamer dudes really often live on the verge of what is an essay too, as many of them are just plot summaries, which is not an essay. Correct. And like, a video like that would be fine, you know, but it's not an essay though. My brain isn't working right now, so I had to trust Google for words that rhyme with battery. It's a slant rhyme, you're fine. I watched one the other day about a boomer shooter I like, and 20 minutes in they dropped the T slur and I'm like, okay. And that's when you stop watching them, right? Just immediately. How many of these do I need? 4, 3. Hello? 4. Oh yeah, Aaron Signal is also a pretty good one. I like that one too. And I don't know much about Jacob Geller as a person, but I would be surprised if he wasn't queer. I don't know. I feel like Jacob Geller could go either way, but I know that at least he's like respectful. You know what I mean? Mandalore Gaming is also good, but he does often just kind of give just an overview of a game, the plot. Like he doesn't really do essays. He just sort of does retro reviews, I guess you could call them, because that's like fun alliteration. He just looks at games, goes over the story, the mechanics, whether or not it's worth playing still. He doesn't have like a pretense of it being an essay, you know?
Egg.
Wait! Yoyonoid! Thank you very much for your egg. Thank you. Need 2 more of these. There we go. And I do this with them. Mandalore kind of feels like a highly edited Let's Play. I wouldn't describe it as such, but I can see where you're coming from. Definitely. H-Bomber Guy is also good. Should watch more. I should watch some of his stuff again. Dress Drive Hayes is a cishet white guy who actually makes good essays. I don't know that one. I think I've heard the name before, but I'm not really familiar with them. Oh, I love this song so much. It's so nice. Okay. 2 of these. Go in here. Okay. I'm pretty sure that these 2 are where Eggman is going to stand. You know, if Eggman lived in the woods and he had hooves and antlers, he would be Stagman. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Okay. Get this and 2 of these. 1 and 2. Eggman has a stand? Eggman has a stand? It was a knife Monopoly guy. Don't know who that is. Don't know what you're talking about. Sorry. Stand is called Hedgehog Stew. That's good. I like that. Bum. Okay. 2 of these. There's definitely going to be some sort of hatch attached to these 2 pieces. Because I know that there is a hatch. If Eggman lived in the woods, his home would be a giant bird's nest. You'd want to call it something. You want to give it a punny name. I guess maybe just the egg's nest would be good enough though. Yeah, because of egg, yeah. There's one thing I've noticed about your streams is that you're always playing bangers. These songs are awesome. Thank you! Only the best songs from my playlists. They're almost exclusively from games that I personally really like and have attachment to, so that I know that like the songs are good. You know. But thank you. I do try. That's kind of why my spooky playlist is a little bit turn around. It's a little bit lacking because there really aren't that many spooky bangers from games that I know, you know? Because like most like horror games don't have banger music. Don't have banger music, you know? So I gotta get it from Sonic Heroes, which has like Hank Castle and stuff. I wish there was more good spooky music. And there are some like Kirby and the Forgotten World, Kirby and the fucking creature, you know, it's got that one has like some spooky. Sonic died. That one has like Kirby and the Forgotten Lands has like some spooky music, but it's not really that good. I don't like it. You know, I don't think it would really be good for the playlist, which is a shame. Closest to spooky bangers I've heard recently is the first Devil May Cry game's battle themes. I feel like that might be too intense. Also, I have played only a very little bit of Devil May Cry, so I don't feel connected to it, you know? Donkey Kong 64 has some more creepy tunes like the castle level theme. It's been too long since I've played that one. I don't think I ever beat it, so I'm not too attached to that either. The Blood soundtrack makes good spooky background music. Maybe if I play Blood, I could add that. These streams can be so silly yet so chill. Thank you for streaming. Oh, thanks! I'm glad you enjoy it. You're welcome, and thank you. What traits of a song would categorize it as spooky music? Well, I can put on the spooky playlist for a little bit here. Spooky? Here we go. You know, some real Halloween-y tunes, but they still have like enough of a melody going that they're like nice to listen to, and they're not like too scary. They're just spooky background tunes that are nice and good. This makes a lot of sense, what I'm saying right now. I'm very coherent. I definitely know how to phrase my thoughts on this, you know? Castlevania might have some good tunes. I should listen to some Castlevania music to decide. I tried listening to some Bloodstained music, but at least the retro ones don't really have what I'm looking for. But maybe the 3D one does. Haven't heard much of Medieval. Maybe it has some good ones? I haven't played Medieval. but I could very much imagine that. Don't remember much of it, but I think Dreamcast horror game Illbleed had a good soundtrack. Oh yeah, maybe that one. I could listen into that one. Anyway, if anyone like knows any good ones or like games that I might want to check out, you can put them in the stream recommendations playlist channel in the Discord. Not sure if you played Klonoa 2. I have not, sorry. I do have the first one downloaded now, so I should play that one. I mean, legally acquired. But the song Make Believe is a spooky tune. Okay. Interesting. Castlevania is a bit too epic. Yeah. I feel like I might not find... I mean, Castlevania as a series has a lot of variety, but I feel like most songs aren't gonna be super fitting, but some of them might be. Animaniacs on the GameCube that has very good spooky music from its horror level theme. I didn't even know Animaniacs had a video game. Although it's not surprising. Oh yes, also I would prefer no lyrics for these songs also. Best game ever, Sonic Heroes. Sonic Heroes is really fucking good. Agreed. Right now, a lot of this is feeling really flimsy. I feel like I could just break a lot of this off right now. And considering you're expected to ram Sonic in a hamster ball against this thing, I hope we remedy? Rectify? Fix it. I remember your Sonic Heroes stream and very good. It was not the impression I came away with. Well, then I guess you definitely just watched wrong. Because it's definitely the best and I had no issues with it whatsoever. Very good game, for sure. Oh, you know what? Why haven't I like put some Banjo-Kazooie music on here yet? I could totally do that. That's totally a good fit, actually, isn't it? Should try to remember to do that. Mad Monster Mansion would be a great fit. White. Twice. Okay, yes, we are making this a little more sturdy. So that's good. Hold on. Do they want gray or black? Oops. They want gray. Sonic has died. Egg has died. Cubot has died. Sonic has died. Eggman has died and Sonic has died. Flicky has died. Okay, alright. It's all good. Okay, put these here. Wait, wrong. Anyway, I feel like you guys have gotten a feel for the kind of spooky ooky music that I would like. Let's go back to the chill one, because we're not doing a spooky ooky stream right now. We'll get back to those next week, don't worry. Oh, it's Sunday, I should make a schedule. Won't really have time for that between this stream and the next, though, will I? So I'll just have to do that tomorrow, that's fine. Donald Duck Going Quackers, or, as it was known to me, where I live, Quack Attack, also has a spooky level of good spooky music. Also a very good one, I should definitely check that out. I haven't played that game in years, but I was talking about it the other day. I have very fond memories of it. And then I learned what Banjo-Kazooie was, and I was like, oh, that's the same thing. Okay, now for the face with the nose. Yay! You have the Luigi's Mansion theme, right? No spook tune is complete without it. I don't think I do. I definitely should, especially since I'm playing through it now. Put them in the suggestions. Put Donald Duck, Quack Attack, and Luigi's Mansion in there definitely. Oh, dab. Ooh, dab. If I was wearing makeup, I would deep dab, but I don't want to have my face potentially be shown. Sorry. Cause that's gonna be so good when my full body VR rig finally arrives, and I do a VR chat stream, and I do a dab then, you know. I hope my leg gets good soon, want ik wil zo graag weer een keer een VR-chat stream doen, weet je wel. Het is nou al zo lang geleden. Maar ja, ik kan niet heel lang opstaan en zo. En als ik een VR-chat stream doe, dan ga ik juist heel veel bewegen en zo. Dus ja, dat is dan al helemaal niet goed. Dus helaas, VR-chat stream kan ik nou een tijdje niet meer doen, maar hopelijk spoedig. Oh, ik doe het verkeerd, merk ik nou. I have to do this upside down. Or rather, I was doing it upside down. Here we go. I was like saying something important, but now you guys won't hear me say it because I had to do it in Dutch. Oh well. What you gonna do? There we go. Dun, dun. Nose. The nose is red. It looks like it could shoot. Okay, and then we're gonna do this. Put it here. And oh, right. I'll make the schedule for you. Tomorrow you are streaming Roblox FNAF content. Wednesday you are reacting to a 4-hour video about content creator drama. And Thursday is League of Legends Day. Saturday is ASMR. I think out of all of those, ASMR would be the only one that I could be convinced to do. Other than that, fuck you. Okay, we got the phase. Which again is very flimsily attached, but I assume we'll fix that. Thought of a game with really good spook tunes, but then I thought about Undertale and it got kind of pulled out of my brain. Dang it! Hopefully you'll remember. Undertale is good though, so I don't blame you. Alright, okay, we are making this a bit sturdier. So all is well in the world. And I've never been happier. I won't have too much time to stream next week though, I think. I've got some other stuff going on, which is sad. I'm gonna go to a theater performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream, which I'm very excited about. But aw, so sad, you know. Okay, let's see. Put this... Oh! Ah, okay. I was thinking that this was gonna be the front, and this was the back. But this is the front, and this is the back. So there's gonna be a container in here that we're gonna knock out. Fun! Oh, I bet it's gonna be like these pins here. We're gonna push something. There's gonna be something here that if Sonic slams into it, you know, if enough force is applied, then it's gonna push the thing out. It's gonna like, the sticks are gonna push something out through the back. That is cool, that is fun. I'm excited. But yes, I love Midsummer Night's Dream. It's such a fun play. Haven't seen it in a few years, so I am very excited to go to that with my family and friends. But that does mean one less stream day next week, which is sad. But also, I believe next Sunday, so in a week, it'll be my HRT anniversary. So we're gonna stream something special for that. Even if I haven't quite decided on what yet, I'll have to do so tomorrow. But yeah, that is it's gonna be my 3-year anniversary of starting HRT, so I'm excited to do a bit of a celebration stream for that, you know? So we're probably only gonna have 2 spooky streams next week. We'll see. In any case, let me just put this on here. If I can. Can I? Oh, I can. Good. Midsummer Night's Dream should be more Yuri. Agreed. Good overrun out of there. Just 2 Tatiana. Just replace him. Replace him with a girl. Replace all of them with girls. It'd be good. That would be actually very funny. Just an all-girl production. Okay, so we've got. I think we're done. I can see it. You know, they took some creative liberties with the design, but it's pretty good. You know, the new colors, I actually quite like them. You know. He flew out. Fun. Okay, now we're building. Whatever that is, twice? I don't know what that is. Starting with this and adding. How long have we been going for? About 2 hours. I don't know if we're gonna finish it today. We'll have to see, I suppose. But I do be having some doubts. Put this here. I think I've seen where all the fairies kids would really help the piece come together. Yeah, I think that's really what Shakespeare was missing, you know. And I've heard that he actually did one scene, a scene like that, but it was the culture at the time that prevented him from realizing his true vision, you know? That's definitely a real thing I read for sure. Definitely. Okay, let's see. This here. I actually heard that Shakespeare was actually transgender. I heard Shakespeare was based. Oops, wrong. I need this one. I don't know what this is yet, but I like the look of it. It looks nice. It looks cool and good. Shakespeare was gay as hell, right? Definitely. Old Willie Shakes really wanted to make all his plays Yuri, but the executive producers at the top of the company wouldn't allow it. Corpo Greed strikes again. You look cool and good. Thanks! Thank you. I appreciate that. I try. I do be trying so hard. Every day. I recently got like a really nice dress and a... I recently got a really nice dress and petticoat, and I'd love to show it off, but every time I try to like take a picture, the lighting isn't good or something, you know? I gotta like go out with it and then just like get someone to take a photo of me in good lighting at a nice location, and then I'll be able to show off my nice dress. dun, dun. Okay, now we've got 2 of them. Ah, they go on the side. Does make sense. Nice, nice. The shape is coming together a little bit more. Very good. Okay. Next up, do this. Do that twice. Dun-dun. Okay. Put them on the front. And on the back. Okay, alright. And then we're gonna make the same thing but mirrored and put it on the other side. Ah, I knew it! I'm very smart, you see? Bum bum dun 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 dun. Okay. It all slots together so nicely. It's really good. Ooh. Yay. Okay. Next up. It was Paper Mario. That game has good spooky songs. Oh yeah. That's a pretty good one. I wonder if Drawn to Life has any stuff I could use either. Good ones to look into for sure. Okay. Moving on. Okay, like this, I think. And then another one. So this is gonna be the cover for the front, I assume. If I had to throw out a wacky wild guess. Turn it around and put these on here, which adds some much needed stability. Ah! Sonic has died! Sonic has died. Okay, here we go. Okay. Whoa. Oh, it's the push contraption that I was talking about. There it is! It's real, it's true! It's like magic! It's got colors! Alright, very exciting. Oh, there we go. Ripped to a real one. Yeah. Sad. Oh well, there are other hedgehogs. Like Amy. I think Amy should be the star of the game, actually. I think she'd do a good job, don't you? Oh, hi, Amy. We were just talking about you. What a coincidence. Ow. What do you want me to do? Oh, you! I did it on purpose, too. I mean, I never really wanted to murder him. That goes... That goes a little bit far, but you know. What's done, it's done, you know? Okay, nice. Now they're stuck. Because I put a thing on top of it. And then a little green one over here. This is cute. Look at all the colors. That's adorable. I like that. And we are slotting it right down here. There we go. And then a single black piece over here. Is that good? Hold on. Oh no, I did it wrong. But I caught it, so we're good. Wait, no. Hold on.
You don't have enough
I did it wrong again.
memory card.
I know, I'm being so silly, so dumb. There we go, now it's good. There, good. And it does in fact go on the front. Just as I suspected. Yep. Ta-da! Orb. Oh yeah, look, look, look. So he's gonna be standing like this, and Eggman, Sonic pushes it in. Good. Fun. Also, I did remove Derek's head from last stream. We just have a new one. So we've got an egg. This is so cool, so fun. Yay. He's gonna be like a hefty boy too, you know? Like he's already like the size of my hand. Right now he doesn't even have he doesn't even have like arms and limbs and stuff, you know? Very good, very cool.
Hey, come on.
And Ritsutera, thank you very much for you. No! I'm dead. Well, goodbye, everyone. Get my phone out. Wow! It is Broken Queen. Give me just a moment to set that up, everyone. Bum bum ba bum ba bum 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 bum. Oops. Go here and here and here and here and here and here, and then do this. Breakfast Queen? What are you talking about? 116, 160. Okay, I think. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Go over here. I'm gonna do this and do that and do so and do this and that and I'm sorry, I just muted myself. Hello. There we go. Tai Kunoichi, thank you very much for following. Welcome. It always just takes a little bit more work to put up to. It takes work to switch away from Queen of Fennec, and also more work to switch to Broadcast Queen. So it's extra. It's the most work that I could have. This is the first time I've seen an alt live that isn't Fennec Queen. Wow. Damn. I mean, she has been around a lot lately, so that makes sense. Sorry, you don't have to apologize. It's okay.
Car battery!
Oh, ow! Ugh. Anyway, moving on. This model owns. I haven't seen it before. Thank you. I like it. It's Broadcast Queen. She's very Dutch. She's got tulips. And she's got various TV channels of old TV shows that I like, you know? Here's a cat. And I think I have more. Oh yeah, this one. Yay! Queen of Fennec, named like a Sonic. Okay, yeah, her name is Queen of Fennec, but in order to fit the naming screen, she is Fennec Queen. But both works. You can call her either one. She's made her peace with that. And I think there was a head for Derek also. Yeah, clone. Did you ask for anything specific? Doesn't seem like it, so I'll just go with something. Well, let's do Knuckles' hat because we're building Sonic things. Looks great. It looks so good. I know it's a different style, but it makes me think of Space Channel 5. Ooh la la. Huh. That's cute. That's fun. Eggman has died. Okay, anyway, moving on to the limbs. Let's see, we've got 2 more bags. I think this is gonna be the legs, and then the final bag is gonna be the arms. There we go. We start with the most humble of bricks. A black 2x2. Wow. Stop killing your war prisoners. It's fine. They've got extra lives. It's okay. And then we get... over here? No. One. And... 2. I have to do this twice also, so should be doing each step twice. Okay. 1, 2. I need to make that effect with the tools on my model, but I have no idea how. I use a specific type of material for it. I forgot what it's called. Sorry. You can throw if you put something in like in the Discord in like Whips and Doodles or something for me to look at later, then I can look it up for you later because I know you're in the Discord, so I know you can do that. Put these on here. Huh. Are they? These are brown, aren't they? That's definitely brown. I guess they are a little bit brown. That is definitely something that I like. The colors. The colors in the manuals for Lego builds are sometimes a little bit hard to really grasp. You know what I mean? They're sometimes a little bit too dark. Use Discord. It's not your intern. No, it's me. My intern just handles my actual VTubing. Like that. This. Obviously, this is me. This is my intern. See? Because like sometimes you'll notice that like the hand movements aren't accurate, you know? It's because my intern's doing a bad job. You're doing a bad job. Silly. Nice. Okay, next page. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice that I messed it up. And now I must fix it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. One, 2, 3, 4. I put these at the top. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Again, like, how's this gonna be feet? You know? It's cute. I like it. I like building with Lego. And I like doing it on stream because we're just hanging out, you know? What's everyone up to while they watch? Are you guys building Lego of your own? Maybe drawing a bit? Maybe getting some sick kills in the video games? Gardening, perhaps? I'm just playing Stardew Valley, nice. That's cozy and cozy. I can never like stick with Stardew Valley long enough to really get a feel for it, you know what I mean? It doesn't really grasp me personally, but that's just a personal thing. The game seems very fun and good. What? Huh? Oh, okay. Put that here, and then put a teensy little thingy here. We're making a little panel. Very nice. I like that we're taking the effort of like making it look like some mechanical paneling, you know? Like you could do this with less pieces, but then it wouldn't look as good. I'm just chilling. It's Sunday, so I do nothing. It's good for brain. That's good. That's good to have a nothing day. I should try that, doing that. Why would one kill in video games? To marry the Grim Reaper? I mean, yeah. You gotta get hooked if you want to play long. Yeah, I'm afraid it's just not my kind of game. Which is a shame, because it does seem like it'd be fun to play together with friends and such. Okay, that's one. Now for another. I'm laying in bed. Excited for a concert to see my favorite band, but it's in February, so I will be in bed for months. Well, you gotta get really rested before then, you know? But it's cool and exciting. Currently working on some sprites for my review series. Woo! Good luck. There we go. Next page. And we're doing almost the exact same thing again, but mirrored this time. Keep up now. Of course, with my incredible ability of foresight, I was already able to predict that that's what we were going to be doing. I actually didn't. I was wondering if that's what we were going to be doing. One. And then the second one. Foresight so amazing, it's actually called Five Side. That's cute, actually. That's my new superhero. She has 5 Sight. Everybody's just like, don't you mean 4 Sight? And she's like, no, it's really good though. I have too many games on my plate to invest in Stardew. That's very large of it. Yeah, like I already feel like I'm not like working on things I should be working on too much with the games I already play. So if I were to get invested in something like Stardew Valley, it would just be worse, you know? I'm playing the demise of those who have wronged me. Thinking about playing Baldur's Gate. How far are you in Baldur's Gate now, Jody? Okay, let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Gotta make 4 of these little things where we add a teensy weensy little 1x1 plate. 2 of this, and then I drop it on my keyboard, but it doesn't press any buttons this time. 2 of this. I had a really sick idea for a character that I could see the future that I want to share, but it may be a bit of a long message. Oops. Hold on a second. A better place to share that might be the Discord, if you're in there, because we have a whole channel devoted for talking about our cute little OCs, called Blorbos from Our Mind, or Brain, I forgot what I called it. Still the Moon Towers. I haven't played since last time you watched me because I got distracted with Cyberpunk. And also some boomer shooters. That's fair. Man, I am so excited to play Cyberpunk Red, the TTRPG. Woo. Come on, get on there. Thank you. There we go. Oh, these are totally gonna be like this, aren't they? I was still thinking like, how is this gonna be the feet? But they're gonna be like this. These are gonna be the feet. You'll fucking see. It's gonna be. That's what it is. That's cool. They're gonna connect. They're gonna like, you know. These are like the ankles, you know? Ooh, that's good. It's also fun because I played 42 hours of Baldur's Gate in a row, and a break would make sure I didn't burn out. Smart. I should try that. I think it would be fun to DM a campaign where one of the player characters got isekai'd into the world. Me and my TTRPG friend group have talked about doing a like some one-shots or something about fantasy people that got isekai'd into the real world. I think that could also be very fun. That's quite the feat, haha. Nice. Okay, make 2 of. Oh wait. First, we're gonna put these on here. Okay, where was I? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I love the noises. I love making noises and it comes naturally to me, so that's convenient. There we go. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. And then 2 of these. There we go. Such a big fan of this all. Thank you. Thank you. I made it. As I do all my models. I do like how completely different Broadcast Queen is. I'm very proud of that. I just think it'd be fun because the player could talk about modern meta stuff, but it's secretly in character, and they have to try to hide that. Oh, like they're secretly isekai. That's interesting. That would be neat if you could work that into a character. Although I feel like it would be difficult for the character. It would be difficult to hide it from the other players, you know? Because like if the character is constantly talking about real world stuff and you as the DM is not telling them not to metagame, how's that gonna work? You know? Like the other players are gonna find it out immediately, aren't they? Hello? Come on. There we go. Replace your legs with those? These stompies? My leg is fucked right now, so I'm not completely disregarding the idea. It would be nice to get better legs right now. Also, YoYonoid has requested full Discord access. Please, if one of the mods could provide them with that, that would be nice. Thank you. You can claim all the models. You can claim to make all the models, but I surely remember Queen Defendant coming out of a portal. Like, come on. I guess maybe I didn't. You've seen through my ruse. I actually didn't. I don't know where all these little freaks keep coming from. I'm so sorry. And Wahoo Phantom has also requested full Discord access. Thank you. Enjoy your times there, y'all. I'll just get really dumb players. They'll never suspect a thing. Of course, genius. Okay. Get this, and put that here. And get another one, put it on the other side. And then do some of this and some of this. And we put it on the back. These feet are really coming together. This is so fun. Lego's so fun. We're just gonna be the front. I think this is gonna be the front. But I guess it's not out that this might still be the front. Who knows? We'll find out. Here we go. And then this and this and slip it on there. Okay. Okay, I think, yeah, these are just the feet, and now we're gonna make the leg itself, the leg proper. Okay. Starting with it. Oh, and these are gonna be different. We're not making these twice, I think. If I'm understanding that correctly. Maybe not. I think we do still make these twice. Hold on, let me just skip ahead a little bit and just get some fucking spoilers. Yes, okay, we do this one twice as well. Wait. Correct. You win. Ba-dum. Dun, dun, dun. Bum, bum, bum. Wonder if I should just keep this build stream going for a little bit longer and just order some food instead of needing to make it myself, so that I can just take a little stream break between the two games, or well, this isn't a game obviously, so that I might be able to finish this today still, instead of needing to do the little tail end of the build some other time, you know? You know what I mean? Ordering food is a wallet killer. I know! But it's not the stream killer. You can cook. What's your favorite dish? I cannot cook. My favorite dish might be shepherd's pie. I don't know, maybe, potentially. But the thing I cook the most is just like wraps or something. I can cook. You know, I can cook. Objectively speaking, I am capable of cooking. I'm not good at it. I'm not bad at it. It's just a thing I can do, but I prefer not to. I don't particularly enjoy it. You know what I mean? I prefer not to do it if I can help it. It is not really one of my favorite activities. Let her cook. I was a chef, so I will cook you a sandwich. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jody. I will enjoy it so much. Am I doing this right? Yes, I am. Okay, turn it around now. Where are the U-bots? What the hell? Ugh, the U-bots got moved at some point. I don't know why that keeps happening. It's very weird. Anyway, y'all are back now. Sorry. Thanks for the heads up. I like to cook for friends. With friends, we like to cook together at Halloween to make a pumpkin recipe. Cute! I don't know, I just personally don't really enjoy cooking. It just takes time that I could be spent doing other things. You know?
Car battery!
I died, but I'm okay now. I noticed the bots were gone because I realized I could see the whole wall of friends. Oh man, I really need to make a new overlay where stuff isn't covered up by y'all. And I will, eventually. Okay. Another fun little... Where does this go? No, that's wrong. Is it wrong? This feels wrong. No, it's not. Oh, I'm doing it wrong. Here we go. Bum, 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 bum. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, gotta make this twice. There we go. And we're stepping that on here like so. On here like so. There we go. And then we have to do it a second time, naturally. Or used to this process by now, I'm sure. I do have a specific recipe that I like to cook sometimes, although I haven't in a while, which is a, what did I call it again? The double Becker, which is, a double grilled bacon, cheese, and eggs sandwich. And it's very good. It's not that hard to make. And then you get some tomato soup or ketchup or something to go with it. Ideally tomato soup, naturally. But it's very good. It's more work than like a regular, like, grilled cheese sandwich or something, but because you have to make like a whole omelet for it and stuff. But it's very good still. And also very filling. Maybe a little bit too filling sometimes. Okay, let's see. Now we take these little bitsies, slap them on the sides. I like making brownies. Ooh, I love brownies. Jody, if you come over and you want to make brownies, just say the word. I'd love to eat some brownies. Might go for a bit to do skincare stuff. Ooh, good. But I will be back as soon as possible. I'll probably lurk. Enjoy the Lego building. Okay, thank you, Wahoo. Good luck with your skincare. Oh, squid! Just as I was reading the message, like, here's a squid. I was like, oh, there's a squid coming. And there it was. Making brownies is a promise for letting me stay with you. That's a promise. Yay. Good to have brownies. Okay. And then we do the mechanism. Look, it's a mechanism now. It moves. See? And it makes a funny little clickety-clack sound. So what's not to love? And then we slap these on here. I'm so prepared to fight the squid or something. No, the squid just comes by to scare me now and then, that's all. Brownie Queen is a valid alt name. This is true. I don't think I want to use that name though. Wait, did I do it wrong? Oh, I fucking did it wrong. I'm the failure. There we go. I have a special recipe where if you eat them just as they've cooled, then the inside has a pocket of melted chocolate. Wow. You're some sort of culinary genius, holy shit. Low effort meals are very important when your spoons are limited. Never feel bad about not cooking if you don't have the energy for it. I basically never do. But yes, I basically only cook low effort things like wraps and like a spaghetti with sauce, like pre-made sauce and stuff, you know? Okay, let's attach the legs. Wait, hold on. Let's attach the feet and the legs first. There we go. These look really good. You can still like see some of the green inside, which is a little bit weird because I feel like that's an odd color to choose for... I did this wrong. You're not supposed to be able to see that green. This green you can still see though. Ugh, I fucked them up. But it's an easy fix, so it's okay. There we go. It's supposed to be like this. The green is on the bottom. We're good. We're okay. We're fine. There we go. Now they're good. They look really good. They look like the game. And that's awesome. Oops. There we go. Awesome. He's so big. This is fun. This is good. He's dead. Some of Eggman's robots do have green highlights, if I remember correctly. I guess they have little lights and stuff, maybe. I'd have to check. Wow, so it's like when you have a bright layer under your drawing and you can see it through, so you know what to fill. Like the green stuff, you mean? I guess so. My girlfriend is a chef and she's the best thing to ever happen to me. Mostly for other reasons, but it's a nice bonus. Cute.
Sonic, help! I can't find my seatbelt! I'm fucking scared.
And the final bag. Maybe we will be able to finish this before... You know what? I think we will be able to finish the build before the time I had allotted myself, actually. You can tell the green stuff is supposed to be hidden. Oh, like that! Yeah! Yeah. That actually does work.
Sonic, help! This robot sucks. I'm going back to the gambling machine. My greatest creation, my ultimate way.
Here they are. Look. This one, and this one. Those are the little animals that I was supposed to have with the previous bag. I knew it. I fucking knew it all along. I win forever. Ooh, these are nice.
Shadow fever? No!
It makes more sense anyway, because you're supposed to use those animals during this part where you put them like in the back here, you know? Anyway, let's get to building something. I'm not sure yet. Like this. And 1, 2 of these. And then these two, like so. Flip around. 1, 2. Here and here. And gotta put a little itsy bitsy little this in there. In each of them. On the outside. I think this might be the compartment that's gonna shoot out of the back, but I'm not sure. Yes, I think so. I think that's what we're making right now. Which is gonna be bigger than I thought it would. Than I thought it would be? It's gonna be bigger than I thought it would be. It's gonna be thinner than I thought it would. It's gonna be bigger than I thought it would. I feel like both work. We're probably building ARMS for Nintendo Switch next. I hope so. What a good game. It deserves more love. Remember how Zeva could inexplicably control robots with his mind? It is quote-unquote explained by saying that the Fury, the Deadly Six or whatever the fuck, that they can manipulate electromagnetic fields. So that's some control robots, I guess. Sure, you know? Whatever you want, bitch. Wait, how's this? Whoa. Okay. We're going to use this and this to make like boosters or something? What am I making here? Suction cups maybe? I'm not sure what the point of this is yet. But it's a clever usage of parts. There we go. Are we talking about the Deadly Six? Preferably not. Okay. Get these. Ooh. Searching posture check. I'll do it in a moment. Just give me a little second. There we go. Okay. Really? We're just leaving a perfectly good empty space in the middle and just putting a thing on there. Really now? Well, that's very sad. You make very Kazooie type noises. Oh, Hi! Yes, I do. I do make very kazooie type noises. Okay, got that. Where? What? One. And two. Dun, dun. Use Control F. I ate those keys, sorry, so I can't. Otherwise, good suggestion though. Okay. Oh, this is cute. Rather than just using like a 2x3 plate here, we're gonna use these three. Ow! These three instead. That's cute. For style, you know? Then we also need another little ingot piece. I love these pieces. These pieces are so cute. I like them a lot. Igman is going for those style points. He's trying, yeah, he might not be able to beat Sonic like in the combat category, but in the style category, he might, you know? But both of them are actually gonna lose to Amy in her Sonic Riders outfit, because I love that outfit. Now we get to use these really fun painted plates. This looks so nice. I don't know what it is about them, but I like them a lot. I think they look really nice. What if for the break between streams you just had Jody hop in mic and rant about a Deadly Six? Well, the point of the break is that there isn't that much going on, so that you guys also have like you have the relative assurance that you can go and do something else for a bit without missing stream things, you know? So I don't know, that feels counterintuitive. Sonic Riders outfits are criminally underrated. They're so good. They're really, really nice. I love those outfits. Plate, and I need this on the back. Plate. Another one. Up. Another one of these. And another plate. And now behold. Ta-da! I can stand up. Looks like we'll need this, this, and this. And we're gonna apply this to the back. And then put this here. And another one on the other side. There we go. Okay. And then take this. This is another case where it's like, what the fuck am I building? What am I doing right now? You know? I don't know, but I'm so excited to find out. It's here. Oops. Two of these. Going here. I'm like building things mirrored from how, like I've got like The instructions, like from my perspective, I should be building like this, but I'm doing it like this. I'm like doing the reverse of what they say, so that you guys, you guys, whatever, get a better look at it. I'm being very considerate like that. And boom, you guys. Go, and then some of these. No, my son. My son has fallen over and died. Oh well, there are other sons. Okay. A 1 and a 2 of these. Okay. Here. Here we go. And we slot that together. Like so, I think. Oh, that is not attached at all. Is that on purpose? Am I doing something wrong? Oh, no, wait, it is attached. I just have to push harder. There we go. And that is the back, which is not actually gonna be attached at all, I think. Or... okay, it is attached, but I assume... yeah! Yay, wanton destruction! That's fun, that's so fun! That is so fun! That is so fun! I like that a lot, that is very cute. That is a very fun play feature. You can like... shoot at the back. And then we can put the little babies, also the little animals, on these two slots here. So let's go ahead and do that now. Even though they haven't told me to do it, I'm still gonna do it. So, little animals. Little animals saved. Thanks, Sonic. Sonic has died. Here we go. I got that set too, but I am waiting to build it for special occasions. So far it looks fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it, yeah. I also waited for a special occasion, which is this. Now this is interesting. Wow! Saga Henson, thank you very much for following. Okay, I guess it just works, huh? Interesting. Because usually when you would have... okay, this might be hard to see with the focusing. Hold on, let me see if it wants to focus at all. Well, basically, what I've got here is these little grabbies, and these little gear thingies, they wouldn't usually be used together, but here they are, and it seems pretty stable. So that's cool. That's neat. Anyway, I think the only thing we have left now is, huh? Wait, here they're describing it opposite. On the, if I'm looking at this image right, it looks like you're supposed to push in the back and then the chest flies out. Huh? That is definitely not correct. I think they fucked up. I think the manual is wrong. I think the arrows are supposed to go the other way. Anyway, now we're gonna start making the arms, which I think is the last part we need. Starting simple. Ba-da-da-dum. The manual is never wrong. Well, then I guess I don't want to be right. In Sonic 2, you hit him in the head, but in Generations, you hit him in the back, so I don't know. And here you hit him in the... Maybe that's like on purpose, you know, like here you do even a different thing where you hit him in the front, you know? Spiky fists, spiky fists. Yes, that's right. We're gonna make the first of the spiky fists. You can hit him in the stomach as long as the fists aren't in the way. I think so, right? I think you can hit him there too. That's what I was remembering. But my memory's shit, so when someone says something else, I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe that is what it is. I don't know. But one of the fists is gonna be spiky fist, and the other one is gonna be a gun that actually shoots. Okay, got this. And then we've got some funny color again with the blue here. And this, okay, so put this in here. Put this here. I just hit one, but okay. Woo. Okay. I think that was coordinates, maybe? Okay. Oops. Was example IP. Oh, I didn't even recognize it as an IP. It's Microsoft's example IP. So, obviously not a bad thing. But like, don't do that either way. Because if I had recognized it as something, I could have been really scared, you know? Don't do that as a joke either. Not on my channel anyway. But I feel like you should play it safe and not do that on most people's channels, because you don't know how they're gonna react, you know? Also saying that you're 85% sure it's safe instead of I'm certain that it's safe is also not good. When you're not even sure if it's safe. So just don't do shit like that maybe, huh? Okay, got that. Gonna take this. And then a block. There we go. Box accidentally doxes themselves. That's actually so funny if you're like trying to make a joke about doxing someone, but you accidentally dox yourself, you know? If someone can get offended by it, maybe don't do it. It's not even just offended, like there are people that have been in really bad situations, you know, where like they might have had a stalker or something. I myself have had a stalker, in fact. But other people might like have far worse lingering trauma from that. So if something like that happens in their chat, it might really, really scare them, you know? Things could be really bad. Oh, okay, I'm gonna have to rotate this. Yeah, come on. Okay, there we go. The fuck? Oh, there we go. I think. Yeah. I do like how Twitch sends the numbers out. That was good, yes. Shame it still showed up on the meme maker, though. I think it might have also just gotten censored because I have it to automatically censor links, and maybe it recognizes it as a link. But either way, good. Whee! Oh, that's good. Yay! Gang, I've invented the fidget spinner. Anyway. Aw, damn, I broke it. Broke it just yippee! Broke it just a little bit. That's okay though. Okay, put two thingies on the side. I've never had a big yellow piece like this before. Like these? Never had something like this. So fun to try new things, you know? Eggman's robots are made of cardboard. This explains why Sonic can defeat them so easily. Oh wait, it still works! Yay! Woo! Good. This is a pretty good spin on there too. Slip these on the side. Okay, and then we're gonna make the spikies, which are bigger than these spikies we used earlier for our ingenious spike trap. Life truly is full of spinning things. What a wonderful world we live in. Even animals spin sometimes. And 1, 2. There we go. 3. Wee woo. Okay, so that is that. Slap that on here. Ooh, look how nicely that connects. Very clean. And this spins for no good reason. Hell, I'm not even sure if it's supposed to spin. Well, it does. And that's good. Okay, now we're gonna make the elbow, the upper arm, etc. Starting with this. And this is probably supposed to be brown. Let me check. Yes, it is. The Egg Death Boy had a gun. This one does. This one has a gun, but we're not there yet. There we go. Oh, that's nice and easy, actually. It's only 3 steps. I mean, one of these is like a bunch of steps in one, but still. Eggman shows up without a robot but a Glock and just blasts Sonic away with his gat. Again, I say this a lot because I think it's really good. In the current IDW comics, Eggman does sometimes just bring a gun. Hell, he has Tails at gunpoint in Sonic Adventure 2. Or was it Amy? I thought it was Tails. No, maybe it was Amy. No, it was Amy, and then Tails comes and he kills him.
Hey, where am I?
Not under gunshot is where you are, Amy, so that's good. Okay. Put one of these in here. Wow, what a nice fit. What a perfect fit. Did Eggman get Agnesia? Yeah, that's like the first thing It's one of the earlier arcs in the comics is that Eggman has agnesia, which is not what it's called, but it does sound fun. For Eggman's neutral special, he uses a gun. There we go. And then we attach this. There we go. Nice. And we attach that like so. Ooh, that's looking so good. Oh my god, I'm loving this. I love a big robot. This is so good. Fuck yeah, dude. I'm so excited. He does kind of look like a silly, like, woodpecker with an afro, but that's okay. That's alright. Like Ball's music from Mania is kicking in. I can hear it from in the distance. Oh, there it is. It's coming. Woo woo. Alright, next up. He got betrayed by a future owl thing and some of the credence from Sonic Boom, and that's where I stopped IDW. I don't think you were reading IDW. That's not, I don't think that's an IDW. Alright, now we're gonna make the other arm. Eggman saw Shadow with a gun and was like, hey, that's a good idea. I could just shoot Sonic with a gun. I think it might have been, but the Metal Virus was IDW. What are you talking about with the future owl thing? And some of the credence from Sonic Boom? Are you talking about... Okay, wait. When you say the credence from Sonic Boom, do you mean the Deadly Six from Sonic Lost World? And do you mean... And when you say a future owl thing, do you mean Dr. Starlight, who is a platypus? I think you are mistaking a lot of things for other things. Which, in that case, you've still got some inaccuracies in there, but I at least know what you're talking about. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I am missing one of these. Flip around. One of these pieces. That's not... Oh, okay. It was still in the packaging. We're good. We're okay. I got it. We're fine. Everything's good. Oh, I missed an egg at some point. Faux Fennec, I'm so sorry for missing your egg, but here you go. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Don't forget you have another stream in 2 hours. I know. We're almost done with this one. We're just gonna finish it and then I'll get some food in between the streams. It's gonna be okay. But thank you for the reminder. Oh, you! Thank you for the reminder also. Okay. Do this here. Put this here. Put that there.
Egg.
So we don't forget to find joy in all things. I forgot! No! Of course I didn't. Oh, you! Of course I didn't forget. I always remember. And Saga Hansen, thank you very much for your egg as well. If I was unable to find joy in all things, I would not be playing Sonic Frontiers. So don't forget to become the sun. Later. I'm busy. Okay, now we're gonna make the gun! For his neutral special! Eggman's egg robot, Death Egg robot, wields a gun! Am I doing this right? Yeah, sure am. There we go. And slide this on through. Good. Don't forget to stay determined. Again, I would not be playing Sonic Frontiers if I was not determined. Doesn't Eggman's death robot move back and forth, occasionally moving its arm up and down? And it shoots it shoots this thing. It shoots it and then it sticks in the ground and you have to run up its arm. That's a thing that happens. It's Wednesday, don't forget to be yourself. It's Sunday, forget who you are. Sparkle off. Okay, what am I doing here? This is wacky. First of all, yellow pins, don't see those too often. That's cute. So you don't forget to crush all those who have wronged you below your heels so that they may learn to never cross you again. Oh, I'm doing that. I've got the trill of corpses in my wake. They are dead and I do it again. Okay. And
Analyze being evil and fucked up and psychopath.
Yeah.
forget everything about yourself except fine dining and breathing. Just got back and was immediately told to forget who I am. Yeah, so you heard it, so don't remember to do it. It's an important lesson, you got back just at the right time. But I don't really want to learn. Okay, if I have to forget everything about myself except fine dining and breathing, then I think I'm mostly just gonna remember breathing, because I don't think I know that much about fine dining, to be honest. Which has gotta be kind of inconvenient. Okay, and attach. There we go. Did I do it right? Oh yeah, okay, look, because because of the way we built this, if I rotate this part, the gun also rotates. So that's how we're gonna be able to shoot. Nice. Very cool and good. Let's say we replace fine dining with Lego building. That I could do. I will become the biggest Lego streamer in the universe. Ow. Although it also seems to just... No, wait, it's fine, actually. Wow. Okay. And then we're gonna make the elbow again. Wahoo Phantomil. Why does that name haunt me? It's the only thing I can remember. And that gruesome image. What is your gruesome image, Wahoo Phantomil? What is the thing you see in your mind when you blink? It's a gun. I thought the other one was a gun. No, this one's the gun.
Egg.
This one is the spiky hand. egg. Let me get your egg in just a moment. There we go. Fred Flux, thank you very much for your egg. There we go. And then we do this. I think this is the final bit. I think we're about to be done with the build. Which is actually a little bit ahead of schedule even. So that's wonderful. Okay. And connect. There's the other arm. And I wonder what the next page will tell us what to do. It says to attach it to the shoulder. I'm amazed. Yay! Woo! Look at him! He's my little boy! He died. So nice. And then of course you can like put these things in here. And then you can like shoot them. Which I'm not going to demonstrate a lot because I will definitely lose all of them. He's so cute! He's a little man! And then like if you put him next to Sonic, of course, it's like he's real big and threatening. But outside of that, he's just a little guy. So fun. And next up, yeah, that's it. That is the build. So let's put him in here. Okay, I think he's supposed to sit down, probably. Yes. There he is. What a good fucking build. Can you put Sonic in the cargo bay? Oh, let's see. You could probably do that. Put him like this. Wait, his head's in the way, hold on. Sonic, come on. Play nice now. I don't think I can. No, it doesn't fit with him in it. Very disappointing. He seems to be about the same size, and that's smaller than Omega figure. Oh, nice! They get to be best friends. Maybe if I... hold on. What if I do this, like... hold on. No. Not happening. Big sad. Oh well. Next to Sonic and Death Egg Robot. Next to Sonic, the Death Egg Robot looks super big and intimidating, but it is tiny next to Broadcast Queen. That is true. Broadcast Queen is even taller. Broadcast Queen is like 3 meters. Whee! You're so good though. This is really a really fucking good build. It looks super good. It's large. It's very posable and stuff, you know. Yay! Look at him do a jump. It's got good play features. Okay, hold on a second. Let's try this out. Yippee! Okay, so can Sonic ram into him when he's in the ball? Let's see. Contained. Let's try again. Let's try without the spike trap. Maybe the spike trap like slows him down too much or something. Okay, come on. It worked! He did it! He saved nothing because I took them out. Where did I put them? Oh, they're over here. Yay, I killed him! Hold on. Let's do it again. No, okay, not that time.
No way! I can't believe this!
How did I do it the other time? Hold on. Well, it's an incredibly hit and miss feature, I guess. This ramp is so shitty. Okay, hold on a second. I'm gonna improve the ramp. There, okay. Yay! Oh, also, it hit my mouse. Also, something else fell. I don't know what just fell, but something else fell. I'll look into that between streams. Anyway, so very cool set. I like the builds a lot. It's got a fun play features. It was a flicky onto your keyboard. It wasn't just that. Something felt like over there, like off screen. Weird. Oh well. I like this a lot. It is cool, it is fun, it is functional, it was very fun to build, it looks cool, I like it, it's good. I like building Lego. This was fun. I hope you guys liked it too. Oops. But wait, hold on a second. What was the purpose of having... Hold on. Hold on a second. I think I might have done something wrong at some point. No, definitely not. Okay, so... At this part, right, with the little machine, you build this, this little cap, right, that goes over it, but it's not actually attached. There's no studs here to attach it to. And I thought that was on purpose so that Sonic could knock it off, and I guess that's still true, you could do that, but what I think is weird is this. You put studs back here. You use a specific piece that puts studs at the back, but then you don't use them for anything. And you don't use them for anything in the instructions either. It's not that I did it wrong. You just don't use them for anything. I guess maybe it's just there to like try to keep this thing on. I guess. Oh, well, it just already fell off. I feel like they could have done better on that. Yeah, so you can knock off the capsule. But I feel like they could have done that a little bit differently. I don't know. Oh well. The robot is still really good. And I finally got myself a little Lego multi-tool. And I didn't use it at all because I did a really good job and I definitely didn't make any mistakes at all. Anyway. This is fun. Oops. You are in there now. S-Ring build! Yay! I did a good Sonic! Yay! No mistakes, only speedrun strats. That's it, that's all I did. Any things you might have mistaken as mistakes were actually just, data manipulation, memory manipulation, so that I could use it further on in the run. But I hope you guys liked. Oh, yay! I did it! Wait. I hope you guys liked it. Hope you guys thought it was a good stream or whatever. If you did and you were like, damn, this stream sure was a 20 roll. Yeah, I rolled a 20. If you were like, damn, I do sure enjoy it when Zoe, Gauntlet Queen, currently Broadcast Queen, streams a Sonic thing, but I wish it was a game. I wish it was a game rather than building Lego. Well, then in a little under 2 hours, I will be streaming the Sonic Frontiers, the Final Horizon. I might not beat it yet. It's the second stream of it. We did all the stuff with the other characters. Now we're Sonic again. And it's gonna be good. Ow! If you wish I was streaming Sonic but a game, then you will get banned. Alright, so you can wait here or do something else, and I'll be back in just under 2 hours with Sonic Frontiers. Yay! Alright, see, do we raid someone right now? I guess we could, yeah, I guess we're still raiding. And you guys can just come back here. Or not join the raid, or whatever the hell you want, you know? We are going to be raiding... Ooh! Roko! Roko is playing a spooky. Roko is playing Faith, the Unholy Trinity, which is scary and such. It's a horror game, so be aware of that. And I mean not like the horror games I'm playing so far this month are like spooky, but not like scary. This one's actually like scary, so be aware of that. The raid message will be... Death Egg Robot is our little son. Is our little son. This is the raid message. I think that's cute and fun and such. So everybody go have fun over there, and I'll see you guys in just under 2 hours again. Thank you guys very much for coming. See you soon. Okay. Just a little longer. Ow! I gotta wait a minimum amount of time before I can actually stream. But alright. Okay. See you guys soon. Bye bye.